الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا رب لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I'll keep this as short, inshallah, as possible. Imam Fadil was very comprehensive in his talk. I think it's better to have more question and answer. So inshallah, I'll try and keep this as short as I can. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us how the angels reacted when he said to them that he was going to create human beings. How did they react? How did they react?
They disapproved.
They disapproved. And what did they say when they disapproved? Huh? They will shed blood. He said, "Inni ja'alun fil ardi," and he used a specific word. He used a specific word. And subhanallah at this word. "Inni ja'alun fil ard," I will create on earth. In Arabic, Khalifa. Inni ja'alun fil ardi Khalifa. What did the angels say? They said, قَالُوا أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاء. Will you create within it those who will shed blood and lead to corruption? And we thank you and we glorify you. So look at this. First of all, the word used was the word Khalifa. What does this teach us? Teaches just because you say you're a Khalifa doesn't mean anything. Just because you say you're a Khalifa doesn't mean that you are on the way of Islam. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I will create a Khalifa. I will create people, and the tafsir of this is deeper than this, but the word Khalifa, what does it mean, etc., etc. But just linguistically, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will create a Khalifa, and they said, but they will do bloodshed, etc., etc. Why am I mentioning this? Why am I starting off with this? Because actually, extremism didn't begin after the death of the Prophet ﷺ and after the demise of the Khulafa. Extremism began from day one. Extremism began the second the son of Adam killed his brother. Anything contrary to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained, anything contrary, this flow of blood that the angels, we could say prophesied. Yeah? This is extremism. And this didn't come because, you see, this is really important, because a lot of people will say, religion brings with it extremism. No. Mankind brings it with the extremism. And religion is here to combat extremism. And so if an extremist adopts Islam, and Islam doesn't fix his extreme views, then it's his problem. It's not Islam that has brought it. Does that make sense? I did a training with the Prevent lot just to understand how they think and what their attack will be on Muslims. And the woman, she was in charge of all of the West Midlands police at the time, I can't remember her name, and nor do I care. She said that a murderer entered prison, he was jailed for being a murderer. And then he accepted Islam. And now he is profiled as a terrorist. So he killed someone before entering prison. He hasn't killed anyone since. But he's accepted Islam. Now he's a terrorist. But from our perspective, no. He entered there a terrorist because he entered there a murderer. He entered into that jail a murderer, and then he repented by accepting Islam. And now he no longer is a terrorist. Unless he perpetrates what he might have, maybe he's a psychopath or something, and Islam, but Islam isn't the problem. He went in with a problem. If he comes out with a problem and is a Muslim, then we can, but he already went in with the problem. And so extremism is not a problem of religion and not a problem of Islam. It is a problem that some people are misguided and the angels prophesied. Is this clear? So it is not a problem of religion. And this is one of the things that atheists would love you to believe. Because the war on terror is not just a war on terror, it's a war on religion. And the Christians feel it, and the Jews feel it. And anyone who, the questionnaires now that are being given out by the Prevent strategy, etc., etc., they're not asking if you're a Muslim, they're asking you if you would follow your religion. Even the Christians are under attack. And so this is something that we, as Muslims, as we are practicing Muslims, are in the forefront of da'wah, should not fall into. We do not say that terrorism started because of love. Now the Prophet Islam prophesied, yes, that there will come a people who, when you compare your prayer, as Imam Fadl said, to their prayer, you will think, my prayer is nothing. And you will hear them reading Quran like bees during the night. But Islam, they leave Islam as quickly as an arrow that is shot from a bow leaves the prey. It enters and it leaves that quickly. He's not saying, oh, they're extremism because Islam. He's saying these people are extremists, they enter into Islam, nothing's changed, and they leave. The arrow, before it enters into the prey, is still an arrow. And when it leaves, it is still an arrow. Does that make sense? So the problem is not Islam, it has nothing to do with Islam, nothing to do with religion, unless the religion is one of barbarism. And that's it. And so anyone that claims, I am the Khalifa, okay, well Allah said that you will create a Khalifa on earth. Not Islamic Khalifa, just a Khalifa linguistically, which is someone that takes, that takes the burden. And the angel said, yes, but he's going to kill people. So what type of a Khalifa are you? This is the question. And the word Khalifa means, at least Abu Bakr and Umar used it. Abu Bakr used it. Khalifa means the one who came after. Khalifat Rasulullah, the one who came after Rasulullah. And when Umar came in, he stopped being called Khalifa, because you can't be Khalifat Rasulullah. So he was called Amir al-Mu'mineen, the leader of the believers. So really, technically, there was only one Khalifa, and this was Abu Bakr, because he was the one that came after the Prophet. This is what it means. Khalifa means man yakhlif, whoever comes after. And Umar himself said, this now becomes redundant. Call me something else. What should we call? What we should call this? It's Amir al-Mu'mineen. So now someone comes and says, I'm Khalifa. What? Khalifa of what? And why are you calling yourself Khalifa? Now they claim to establish Islam. This reminds me of a time when I was working for a company called ADT. They do alarms for houses and businesses. And I was with my friend, and we were stopped. We were going to buy a doner kebab. I like the doner kebab, he likes the chicken kebab. And we were stopped by a car with Irish gypsies. And I had a Nokia communicator, 9500, 9100, I can't remember what it's called. And he wanted one. I paid a leg and arm and a leg for it, and he wanted it for cheap. And they came out and they said, look at this, blah, 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 blah. And they showed them the communicator, and it's working. He said, okay. He said, we'll give you a new one in a box. Well, you can't open the box. You can't open the box. But look at this one, it works. Look, can you see it? It works. This one in the box that you can't see is the same thing. How much? Oh, it's just 50 quid. Whoa. Rahman, how much did you pay? I paid 400 quid, bro. 50 quid. Oh, that's worth it. What's worth it? The communicator. But you haven't seen it. Yeah, I just saw this one. This one in the box, you haven't seen it. No, but I saw this one, and it's, look at yours. Yours is amazing, blah, 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 blah. It wasn't that amazing, but it was alright. At the time it was amazing, compared to now it was rubbish. So he paid them £50. They gave him the box, foot on the pedal, never saw them again. He opened it, it was a brick. Ironically, because they used to call my phone a brick. He paid £50 for a brick. So now when someone tells you I'm establishing the Khilafah, what Khilafah, brother? The same one is in the book. The same one in the book. Really, you're establishing the same Khilafah in the book? I'm sold! How much is it for? Oh, just a ticket. Just come to Syria, just come to here, just come to here. And when you get there and you open the box, it's a brick. Where is this Khilafah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الَّذِينَ إِن مَّكَّنَّاهُمْ, those that when we give them power, أَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةِ, they establish prayer. The second we give them power, any form of dominance, they establish prayer. The second, the first thing. The first rule of governance, Islamic governance, is to establish prayer. Is this what we're hearing ISIS is doing? Are they establishing prayer, or are they taking imams and killing them? Outright, in front of people. You're killing an imam? Why? What did this imam do? What did this imam do? And take whatever they say. If this imam, you see, in Islam, in order to kill someone, there are very, very, very few triggers, legal triggers, that allow you to kill someone. First one is if someone kills someone without any right, then you can kill them. An eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, a life for a life. Did the imam do this? He didn't do this. What then is the next one? The next one, according to some of the scholars, is if he leaves Islam and is envious towards Islam at the same time. Did the imam of the mosque leave Islam before his khutbah on Friday? No. So that one goes up. What else is left? What else is left? There is one other thing in Islam where you are allowed to kill, and that is against a pirate. And do you know what a pirate is? A pirate in Islam is someone who, not just a pirate in an ocean or on the sea, but on land. Islamically, the term for it is someone who cuts the peace, who cuts the way. So you're in your caravan and someone stops you and hijacks you. This is a pirate. Now if he stops and just steals from you, there's a ruling against him. If he stops, steals and beats you, there's a ruling against him. If he stops, steals, beats you and kills you, there's a ruling against him. The most severe of which is that we cut one hand and one leg on opposite sides and stick him on a cross and leave him to die. يُفْسِدُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ, the people who have fasad, who corrupt those on earth. This is the most extreme of them, and this is what we do to them. And so if you're claiming to be a Khalifa, what type of Khalifa are you claiming to be? And if it's the type of Khalifa who will shed blood and do everything un-Islamic, then what have you become? A pirate. And what is your demise? What is the ruling upon you? Is we cut one and the other, and we stick you on a thing, and we leave the crow to eat from your head on a cross. This is the ruling of Islam. This is the ruling in Islam. And so when you get a couple of kids in Somalia stoning a woman to death because someone said somewhere that she's an adulterer, then those people who stoned her, every one of them, the death sentence is to be applied upon them. This is Islam. This is Islam. Because first of all, you need 4 witnesses. And if you do not provide 4 witnesses, then you are to be lashed. You are the one to be lashed. Even if you come with 3 witnesses, even if you come with it recorded on your iPhone. But there were 4 witnesses at the time of it happening, still lashed. But they didn't just say, oh, she did zina. They then threw her with rocks and killed her. This is murder in Islam because there was no due process. And so someone says, I want to establish Khilafah. What do you mean by this? What do you mean by this? There's a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he has Ibn Abbas with him. And they're going together. And this hadith, wallahi, when you hear it, to me every time I think about it, it is an absolute miracle that this hadith was not said to Khalid ibn Walid. It was not said to Umar. It was not said to any general of an army. It was said to a young boy who was 7, 8 or 9 years old. What did he say to him? I'll skip the first part and I'll come back to it in a while. He said, if the whole world is to unite to harm you, he's saying this to a 7-year-old. You should say this to an army general, right? Don't worry. Off you go, fight Rome, Persia. Don't worry. If everyone unites against you, don't worry about it. No, he's speaking to a 7-year-old kid. If the whole world unites against you, know that they will not be able to harm you except if Allah has willed it. And if the whole world unites to save you, ask anyone with stage 4 cancer. Ask anyone who's dying, he has hours to live. If the whole world unites to save you, they will not be able to save you except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written. Spontaneous remission, written by Allah. But if the whole world wants to save you and it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. But what did he say at the beginning of this hadith? Ihfadillah, yahfad. Safeguard Allah, Allah will safeguard you. Safeguard Allah, Allah will safeguard you. What does it mean to safeguard Allah? It means be where He has asked you to be, and stay away from that which He has prohibited you from being. This is what it means. So a Khalifa comes along and says, I am the Khalifa of Islam. Are you safeguarding Allah? Are you doing as Allah has asked you? Or are you doing the opposite of this? And if you're doing what Allah has asked you, Allah will safeguard you, and the entire earth cannot harm you. And if you're not doing what Allah has asked you to do, then the entire earth cannot help you. The entire earth. I'm saying this why? Why do people join ISIS? I see the bloodshed, I need to do something. Anything? 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 You need to do anything, or you need to do something? What type of something? What qualities does this something fit? What are the characteristics of the something that you want to do? It has to fall under ihfadillah yahfadak. Safeguard Allah so that He can safeguard you. And this is a very, very rare, very few people know the following fact. My Shaykh, when I was studying, told me this. Salah ad-Din, Richard Lionheart, had a huge army. And Salah ad-Din was, before this, was with his generals, and he said, why are we losing land to Richard? Why are we losing land? Something is wrong. When we came here, you know when you play football, you play on your own ground, you have the advantage. When we came here and it was their land, and we took it back. So we had the disadvantage, and yet we took it back. Now they're taking it back from us. So they have the disadvantage. How can the one who we beat us when we have the advantage? After having beaten them. How is this the case? They said, oh, you're looking too deeply into it. You're like this. You just take it easy. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. Just take it easy. He said, no, there's something wrong. And he began to find that there were many things wrong. Some of his generals and some of the army would rape women because the Christians were raping. Some of them. Some of them would kill children because that's what the others were doing. And when he prohibited them and he said, this is haram, they said, then go you and your Lord and fight. Just as the Jews, the Bani Israel, said to Musa. And so, on one night, this is narrated by both the Christians and the Muslims, Richard Lionheart stood at the gates of Jerusalem, and Salah ad-Din was on the other side. And he had with him a handful of people, the same as this hall. And it is narrated that if Richard Lionheart had spat on the door, it would have opened. If someone had just pushed it, it would have opened. No one was there to. But Salah ad-Din was making dua all night, and qiyam all night, and they got there, and they got afraid, and they left. Had they entered, it would have been, that's it, would have been finished. Ihfadillah yahfad. If you're not, oh, they're killing us, so we'll kill them. Is that the same? Is it right when Imam Awlaqi, for example, says, they killed 1 million innocent children or civilians, therefore we'll kill an innocent? No. Because this is not an eye for an eye. The one who killed you, you kill him 1 million times if you can. You don't kill his brother and sister. Does that make sense? So it is a misquotation. So if you misapply the rules of Allah, Allah will not safeguard you. Ihfadillah yahfad. If you misapply the rules of Allah, He will not safeguard you. You call it jihad, you call it terrorism, you call it self-defense, you call it whatever you want to. If it is not in accordance with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained, Allah will not safeguard you. If the whole world cannot help you against the harm, you think you can help you against the harm? The only way to gain power is through what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written. The only way. And so, you might feel like you want to belong. You might feel like, I'm seeing all of this, I just need to do something, I need to do anything. I can't bear this anymore. But you have to ask yourself, are you making the problem worse? Have you now become part of the problem? Are you now also a transgressor? Are you now also making blood flow? Or are you stopping it? And in Islam, the scholars have taught us that when you come to do a change, any change, you must make sure that the result of your actions will not result in a bigger problem. This is a big deal. The result of your actions must not result in a bigger problem. How do you know that? It's a guess, it's an art. But a wise man will say, I will not take action if it's going to be equal. I mean, and Ibn Taymiyyah, when he came and he was asked, look at these Mongols, they're killing us. Look at these Mongols, they're killing us. What shall we do? They're drunk. They're drunk and they're killing us. Let's stop it because drinking is haram and they're drinking in public and blah, 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 blah. He said, what are you doing? The second they stop drinking, they'll start killing us again. Let them get as drunk as they want. And so you see, the action has to result in something that must be guaranteed not to be worse than where you are right now. And sometimes the only thing you can do is be patient. Sometimes. Sometimes not. We'll come to that. But sometimes the only thing you can do is to be patient. And patience is an action. Not many people understand this. Patience is an action. It's an action. Because it's the currency with which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds. Because Allah is with the patient. Inna Allah ma'a sabirin. Allah is with the patient. And so patient in and of itself is an action. It was covered by Imam Fadl. Who joins these? It's usually the kids. Usually those that have not studied Islam. Usually it's with a guilt trip. Akhi, look what's happening to your thing. Look, I'm going to sell you a communicator. Yeah, and then he sells you a box. Look what's happening. Come and establish khilafah with us. Now there's this thing where sisters are being asked to go so that they can be brides for the mujahideen. Wallahi, what I know is that you get your 73 brides on death. Not before. This is what I know. This is what I know. And this is what they make fun of us about as well. That comedian that died in Jumanji, wasn't it? No, the guy. Okay. Anyway, Robin Williams. Okay. This is what he, oh yeah, they're dying, and he makes fun of the fact that they're 73 and that they're going to be virgins, etc., etc. He makes fun of this. But this is what we know. Why are you enticing me to come fight for a bride? Is it not supposed to be for the sake of Allah? And the ayat, قَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Fight in the path of Allah, in the name of Allah. They say, oh look, Allah is a terrorist. No! People are born with the inclination to kill. Many people are born with that inclination. Allah is saying, no, keep away from that. The only time you do it is when you've been ordered by Allah. It's the exact opposite. So what is it that you have been asked to do, and where is it that you're going? Two main questions I want you to ask when it comes to ISIS. And when someone comes and asks you about it, or someone comes and gives you a guilt trip, or you hear of someone else who's received a WhatsApp message as if it was some wahy, okay? And now the WhatsApp message has told him, Jibreel has come through the WhatsApp message and told this man that he needs to go to Syria, or this woman, or this little kid. Two questions. How do you know, and who says? How do you know that this is jihad and not murder? How do you know that this is a Khalifa? How do you know this is truly Amir al-Mu'mineen and not just some guy who's pretending to be? How do you know that the WhatsApp you're receiving is not even a joke? How do you know it's not from some prevent guy who's a bit zealous and wants to frame you? How do you know? And who says? Who says it's fard? Who says? I want to tell you of an ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This ayah is so, subhanAllah, the superficial eye would think this ayah is contradiction. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَلَوْلَا نَفْرَ مِنْ كُلِّ فِرْقَةٍ مِّنْهُمْ طَائِفَةً لِيَتَفَقَّهُ فِي الدِّينِ. If it was only the case that from each of them, a group, each of whom the people are going to fight, from each of the people going to fight, every group, some of them stayed and learned, learned the religion. Why? Why? So that when they come back, they could teach them and educate. How is it that you could be doing the pinnacle of Islam? You know what the pinnacle of Islam is? Jihad is the pinnacle of Islam. Yeah? How can you do the pinnacle of Islam if you can't do the little basics of Islam? How many skyscrapers have you seen that have been built without foundation? So the brother's a liar all his life, and all of a sudden, now he has reached the pinnacle of Islam. Whoa! MashaAllah, here's your new communicator for. Yeah? All of a sudden. Doesn't know how to read Quran, doesn't know the basic fiqh, doesn't know up from down, and now he is Khalifa. Never heard of this guy before. Where are your credentials? You know, when it comes to ulum al-hadith, we are taught that if it wasn't for the isnad, if it wasn't for the chains of narration, whoever wanted to say something would say it. The Prophet said that watermelons are good for your health. And I happen to sell watermelons. It's just a coincidence. Okay? I happen to want power and I happen to be the Khalifa. Who says? Who says? Where are your credentials? Who knows you before this? Who knows you? Where have you come from? Where are your credentials? A believer is not one to be fooled. A believer is not one to be fooled. Islam values human beings so much and values life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We have esteemed and glorified. We have put on a pedestal the children of Adam. So ask yourself, how do you know? And who says? These are the two questions you have to keep asking yourself. How do you know? And who says? Finally, I end with this ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and this ayah is general, even though we understand it in its generality. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks, shall I tell you of those who have wasted their deeds? قُلْ هَلْ أُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِالْأَخْسَرِينَ أَعْمَالًا. The ones who have wasted their deeds. الَّذِينَ ضَلَّ سَعْيُهُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. The ones who have been misguided in that which they are trying to attain whilst alive. وَهُمْ يَحْسَبُونَ أَنَّهُمْ يُحْسِنُونَ صُنْعًا. And they think that they're doing something right. I seek refuge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you or I fall into this. Because imagine you think you're doing something right, and it is the thing that is misguiding you. You think that by stoning a woman, murdering her in public, so that life no longer has meaning. Oh, by the way, she looked at me wrong. Let's stone her. Oh, by the way, he's backbiting. Let's stone him. Life has no meaning. Yeah? They think they're applying the Sharia, but they're misapplying it. And the result of which is mass murder. And more, what you hear from the Shabab, for example, in Somalia, the group, life has become so meaningless. But they think they're doing the right thing. So they might be sincere, but they're sincerely wrong. This is what this ayah is addressing. And this ayah is in Surah Al-Kahf. 103 and 104. Verses 103, 104. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to safeguard us from the pitfalls of extremism before and after Islam. And not to make us part of the problem, and also not to, for us not to be used as part of a wider narrative to attack other things. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us. Jazakumullah.